which has been proclaimed as by UNESCO for this day for November 5th as the World Day of Romani Language, and it is celebrated all over the world, especially among the Roma communities in Europe. And as you all are aware, Center for Roma Studies and Cultural Relations has been set up almost 3 years back with the objective of connecting with Romas all over the world. Since we all are aware about the heritage of Roma and their origin from India, so we are very keen to develop and strengthen our bondage with our brothers and sisters all over the world who migrated from this country more than a millennium ago. In this connection, we have been doing a lot of activities which include a monthly lecture series wherein we cover different countries, different issues, so that our people in India get to know more about Romas, their culture, their lifestyle, and the challenges which they face all over the world. Today's event theme is the Romani language and culture between European stigma and Indian legacy. Since we all know about the way Roma people have been able to preserve their language despite their migration from India almost a millennium ago. So there is a need to promote this preservation of the language and culture. In 1971, in the first World Romani Congress, the Romani language was declared that this is the language of the Romas all over the world, despite different dialects which may be prevalent in different parts of the world. So today, our speakers, we have very list of enlightened, very famous academicians who would be talking about different aspects of Roma languages and the way it is being preserved, about the dialects, and how what are the things which can be done to preserve it and promote in future. We did hear about Roma language and its linkages with India, because I am told that there are almost 3,000 words which may have an origin from India, and especially the body parts, which are still in Romani language, they are quite akin to Indian languages, either Hindi or Punjabi or different North languages of Northern India. So with this, I'd like to welcome you all, and a special welcome to our speakers. Today, our moderator is Mr. Adrian Nicolai Fortuna, and I'm really happy that he could join us despite the medical problem which he is facing, just prevalent all over the world. World is going through a difficult phase because of this pandemic of COVID-19, and he's brave enough to join us despite the medical problem which he's facing, and we wish him speedy recovery. So now I take this this thing. Maybe I'll request Ambassador Virender Gupta, who is the president of the Indian Council for International Cooperation, to say a few words before we invite speakers to deliver their lectures. Ambassador Gupta, please.
Well, thank you, Ambassador Sachdeva. I wasn't planning to speak. In fact, I just joined in to listen to so many distinguished speakers that we have on the panel today. But anyhow, my greetings and congratulations to everybody on this very important occasion, the International Day of Romani Language. And I think we all celebrate the Romani language, and how the Roma community has kept on to its cultural traditions, language, despite we all know the kind of hardship and depravity. It is always in this kind of situation that is a real test of a people, a community. And I think we all in India celebrate not only our connections, very strong linkages and connections with Roma people, but we also celebrate their perseverance, steadfastness, and how they have survived and kept on their cultural traditions. With these few words, I'd like to congratulate the organizers, Ambassador Sachdeva, and all those who are participating. Thank you very much.
So now, Adrian, if it is okay, then I can invite the first speaker to deliver his lecture. Okay. So okay. So now our first speaker today is Dr. Christian Padure. Dr. Christian Padure is University Assistant in Romani language at the University of Bucharest. We really welcome Dr. Padure, and I understand the topic of your presentation today is Romani language, unitary dimension, journal view into the Romani dialectology, which is very interesting. And I understand that there are various dialects of Romani language, and we really look forward to listen from you about these dialects and the Romani language. Thank you very much. Welcome, Dr. Christian.
Thank you very much. Hello everyone, and thank for organizers for giving me this opportunity to speak. Yes, I will be a short I will make a short presentation, and this presentation will be in English. And I prefer to speak in the Romanes today because today it's about the Romani language. So I will speak in the Romanes with this presentation in English, and maybe we can have the support in English from Mr. Adrian Furtuna. So with your permission, I will share the screen for my presentation. Okay. Is visible for all? Okay. So I will try to be very short. La ce maro divez, savorenge, adivez, droboroitumenge, savore romenge, kai diken amende adivez. Si te dav duma harnes, pala i romani chip diclisar ketanutni chips. Ec generalo dikimos caringe romane dialecte catari Europa.
Hello to everyone. Hello to all that had joined our conference. I will give today a short lecture about the fact that the Romani language has a unitary dimension, and I will read the title of Christie's presentation: Romani language, unitary dimension, general view into the Romani dialectology.
So to te hatiaras mai mișto pala sar si dicli romani cib sar unitaro cib musai te dicas susas hramosardo pala e dialecte sorakempe andi Europa si te dav cadala anava catar Manu ave rode pala romani chip, ai o criterio si mai but pala o eșantiono kai chedia pescadava rodipe, penas pala trin chanda, pala trin diferito moduria kai chedia pes i clasificația cadale dialectorenge, sas pala o criterio s-ar credea să o iar în matras pala imigrația pala lengo ulavimos geografico, hai pala o contacto icibiaco, aver criterio s-ar credea să o rai Marcel Cultiade o delte ertiles pala i fonetico categoria, ai morfologico categoria sarvon buhjar depen, hai pala vachta kana romali nedrom andi Europa, hai na ando palutno chant andi palutni rig o Rai Gheorghe Țarău, caschi clasificația sas pala vice romenghe pala linghi profesionalo buti te prenasca dea hai pala i regiunea kai von beșen.
Ok. Cristi, o să te rog să faci prezentările mai scurte, că e
Ok.
mult și
Ok.
e foarte greu.
Harness.
So I will make like a resume. I just ask Christy to make shorter phrases. So I will first. It's important to see how the Romani language was classified by different linguists, like you see also on the screen. Were used different criterias like migration, geographical spread, or the contact languages. This classification was made by Aaron Matras, by Marcel Curtiade. He took in consideration first the phonetic and morphological evolution and the moment of the Roma migration. And Professor Gheorghe Țarău that classified the Romani language in function by the professional branches and the group region.
Sarsilo cheste hatiarelpes, canacheres clasificația pala vareso, na importil sosi, canacheres clasificația, ai lesando dikimos e criterio si normal, si natural, o anav te avel din nou catar codova criterio ca tu queres clasificația.
Stop. So I consider that it's important to, when we make classifications, to name our classifications by the name, by the object in function that we created that classification.
Yeah, so the criteria of classification give the name of the classes in general. Haite na caz mai dur, i mai anglutni clasificația ca isi te dați duma a canapa la late, si clasificația s-ar pendem cherdi cataro matras, vov aracleas ștar bare grupuria dialectonghe.
First classification made by Jaron Matras. He found 4 dialects, like you see on the screen: Balkan, Vlah, Central, and Nordic dialects.
Nagias mai dur ande detaliile ca te si cavdo tu menge ande save tana del pe duma cadala dialecturia sosi musa te janas cada ea nai e conferința pala dialectologia hai nai sosta te dav but hor Andre numa sosi musa te janas si hai te dicas che cadala ștar dialecte si dine duma ande cadala tema hai e anava catar cadala ștar dialecte si dine catare regiunea catare geografico criteriu.
What it's important on this slide, it's to see the territories where the Romani language it's spoken, and like you can see,
The name of
Jaron Matras named these dialects according with the region where the dialect is spoken.
Andi literatura si pringiarde sar izoglose geografice, geografico-izoglose ca na ulavem pe si dialecte.
In the literature, they are known like geographical, I don't know
Izoglos.
the word in
Izoglos,
English,
yeah.
isoglosses.
Ok. Na caz mai dur, o curtiade and lescolil catar 2000 si cavela menge dui bare dialecte, o supradialecto o ai o supradialecto e.
Like we can see, Marcel Curtiade, he found two supra dialects, the supra dialect O and the supra dialect E. Like you can see on the screen, there is the example with the verb querer with querdiom.
Querdiom, yeah. Ca si o exemplu querdiom con penel querdiom del duma va chiarel o supradialecto o, hai con penel querdem del duma va chiarel o supradialecto e.
Who is speaking, who is using, for example, querdiom, it means I did, speaks the supradialect O, and who is using querdem, it's using the supradialect E. For example, when I'm speaking in Romani language, and this is also new for me information, I use querdiom. So I'm speaking the supradialect O.
And I speak the supradialect e because I say querdem. Tena caz mai dur. Cada la dui supradialecte ando dicimos si cavdo andia abordarea si cavdi cataro rai curtiade zvako supradialecto ulavel pes ande dui. Ulavel pes ando supradialecto o kai siles mutația kai naquel o chu naquel ando sh compenel chavo bimutația sa ando supradialecto o kai si mutația sa ca penel chavo.
Okay, so each supradialect, it's divided. Every supradialect, it's divided in other two dialects. And Christy, you will have another slide where you will
No, it's the same slide. This supradialect O is split into supradialect O with mutation. When, for example, the ch from chavo or ju from juvli, it will continue to be chu and ju. And we have with mutation when chu it become sh, chavo is become chavo, juvli is become juvli, and jukel is become jukel, and so on. This is the same case for supradialect E also. Ca boldavman pi romani civacana. Mai seamen e clasificația cherdica tar o rai Gheorghe Sarău să aveți si ameni bach te aracazle scate amența a te telesodel bud bach ai sastimos te avel bud vriama de acanar anchea mașcar amende andobeș egmia eniașe la enia vardeșa efta ande eglil sobuciolas Roma ai India, Roma di relația Roma India hai romanicib, paruvdem catariganicib pi romanicib, mașcar aver aspecturi abut importante, vov chereliec descripția pa la sarsi cadala ștar dialecte andi România, căldărașisco, carpatico, usăritico, hai spoitorengo dialecto.
And the last classification that was made by Gheorghe Sarău in 1997 in the book the Roma. Tell me the book again.
Romii, India și limba Romani.
The Roma, India and Romani language, published in 1997. He made this classification that was created by the branches of each dialect spoken by each branch of Roma from Romania. Calderaș, Carpathian, Ursari, and Spoitori. And if we will have time, we will try to also to explain a little bit about them.
Kada si kada mangenci, ai si vriama si te das duma cira pala zvako particulariteta pala fiesavo dialecto, ama cam afte na cav ca e concluzie, ca te pandavas sigo, acana. Ok. Sar concluzie. Si te penav că n-ai de ivia, n-ai cadea sar hazardo, că sa cadala trim anușa să ave budro de pala i romani cib ai lența mai sas vie avera că să ave hramosar de pala dialectia, von aracleștar bare categorie pala dialectia.
So it's not a coincidence like you put on the screen. The fact that each scholar made 4 main categories when they tried to establish the dialects of Romani language in function from with different criteria.
Hai să prendem mai anglez ca nașirdem ca da ea prezentația, si normalo, hai logico, ca na keres clasificația pare sar exemplu te penav, ca na keres clasificația e anrenghe pala lenghi rang, musai te araches aver anava. Hateares, Adrian? Ideea.
Nana janau sosi rang.
Rang.
Sosi.
Culoare. Color.
So it's what Christy wants to suggest. It's important, like also he said before, to name each type of differentiation of the
criteria, yeah,
of the criteria, to name them by the way in which they were created. It's correct, Christy?
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to emphasize the fact that some made the criteria by the geographical zone, or
so the geographical zone is giving the name of dialects. So also the socio-professional criteria give the dialect name and so on.
And also the morphology, like
and also the morphology, that is the phonetic one. Okay. Sacadea sa si cavdo andi literatura sa e dialecte andari Europa buhles hatiarempe aresente hatiarepe mașcar pende bite keren e baro e forto hai sar si normalo te mucas rigate i i duito cib, i cib, i gagicani cib, sa viasa i romani cib si ando contacto. Ama buhles sa romane dialecte, hai codoiasi musa te janen vie amare pral catari India, sa dialecte catari Europa, are sen te queren comunicația mașcarpende naturalo, bi e cheie fortosa.
What is important for us to understand, for the general public, and not only, I think, that Christy is emphasizing is the fact that even that we have so many dialects of Romani language, and even that if the Romani language is influenced by the contact languages, the Roma can understand themselves in one unitary language, that it's the Romani language in general. And what he wants to emphasize, because I will add something, Christy, with there are different stereotypes regarding the Romani language.
Yes, it's true.
In Romania, that they say, oh, you know, in Romania there are a lot of Roma and they speak very differently and they cannot understand between themselves. But this is not true, because in
there are just
general,
stereotypes. Yeah.
We can communicate in Romani language even if we speak a different dialect.
Hai o paludno puncto te penav cadea si che ande paludne te penav bișbeș e Roma linete piren cadea put andi Europa ai te hamin pe mașcarpende cadaia si e pozitivo acția te camen cai andar cadaia interacția chirdi catari migrația e romenghi incel e că ketanut nicib te camen. Si e că natural o ketanut nicib savi arachelpes cadea natural o mașcar e Roma an save aven andar verver categorie andar verver neamuria.
And Christy also underlines a very interesting idea. That one, the phenomenon of migration also influenced the Romani language and put the Romani language on a global, I would say, umbrella. And Christy, you wanted to emphasize that the Roma, influenced by the migration, they took contact between themselves from Roma from a country with Roma from another country.
Yes, this is the idea. The fact that Roma belonging to different countries because of migration arrived to live together in different area and interact. So speaking Roma with Roma from other countries, this context is facilitating this Romani commune language. So this it was my presentation for today. Thank you very much, and sorry for my English also. I will be here for I will be here for the discussion session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christy. I tried to make short translation of your presentation. If you will have questions, you can address after that. So I will invite Zamir Anvar, that he's a senior research associate at the Center for Roma Studies and Cultural Relations. of the Indian Council for International Cooperation that will give us also a very interesting presentation with the title Examining the Kinship between Romani and Northern Middle Indo-Aryan Languages. So Zamir, please.
Thank you very much, Adrian. And I heard Christian, he gave a bird's eye view about the Romani language, the supra-dialect, and the classification of the Romani language. So actually, I would I would like to touch upon how Indo-Aryan languages are a putative ancestor of Romani language. As my title, as you mentioned, that the examining the kinship between Romani and Northern Middle Indo-Aryan languages, that itself denotes that there is a, the linguistic connection between Indic as well as the Romani languages. It is also important the finding the history and origin of Roma community lies in the study of its language. Unquestionably, the study of Romani language reveals and divulges the origin and evolution of language to a great deal. If we explore the link between Romani Chi and Indian languages, it is imperative and very important to understand the historical development of the Middle Indo-Aryan language that lasts approximately 600 BC till the end of the first millennium AD. As a number of scholars pointed to the, the Romani departure point from the Kannauj and Mathura to Ghazni and the Persia, and then after, Balkans, then European countries. So as we know that research findings and studies pointed to the Indian origin of Roma because of linguistic evidence, which depicts the resemblance between vocabulary of Romani language and that of Indian language. As Christine talked about, the contribution of Gorgi Sarau, Yaro Mathras, and Professor Marcel Kothiare, and it is our honor that today we have the Gorgi Sarau with us. So he joined this conference. So Professor Kothiare proposed a very, very important hypothesis, elucidating the Roma's cradle city, Kannauj, from where the ancestors of Roma were supposed to have been displaced in 1018 by Sultan Mahmud Ghazni, the Mahmud of Ghazni. At the same time, there are a lot of cultural anthropological studies and ethnological studies that validate and substantiate these the northern places of India from where the Roma had a forced migration. So now I will be very specific about I will be very specific in my presentation, as I'm going to talk about the Indo-Aryan languages. As we know that this group of languages represent the largest family of the largest group of the Indo-European, both by the number of the speakers as well as the number of the languages. Approximately 225 languages and circa 500 million of the Indo-Aryan speakers have been recognized. And it has been universally accepted that the Sanskrit is the distant cousin of almost all languages of Europe. Certainly with some exception, like exception of Basque language, Estonian language, Finnish and Hungarian and Turkish. These are 4 and 5 languages which don't fall into the category or into the language family of Indo-European. So, however, the relationship of Sanskrit to European languages is quite conspicuous and manifested by several explicit lexical resemblance. Even a people who have a little knowledge of Latin and Greek can immediately recognize the relation between their verbal systems, the verbal systems of Greek and Latin, and those of Sanskrit. Some examples like Pitra, that's a very common word in Sanskrit. That's a father in English. And a Matra, that's a Mata, and the mother in English. So those who have slight knowledge of Greek and Latin, they can understand and comprehend the similarities between the Sanskrit as well as these two classical languages. The Sanskrit is a language of inflections. Language of inflections. Later, especially post-Vedic period, however, the post-Vedic period, numerous forms of inflections have died out. Most of the language derived from Sanskrit, and these languages are characterized by basic fundamental feature, that is the tonic accent. Therefore, every important word have an accented syllable that featured by the presence of aspirated consonant. These are the very, these are the similarities. I'll further explain how these, these characteristics and features of Indian languages are identical to Romani language. I'm giving you the bird's eye view so that it can be, it can be understandable that how these languages are, there are a number of references and allusions which confirm the Indian origin of Roma community. But if empirically analyze the Indian languages and Romani language, we find that which dispel all the doubts. So by the time of Buddha, the general masses spoke a language known as Prakrit, and that was a simpler than Sanskrit in both sound and grammar. So the several other dialects like Magdhi, Suraseni, that is a western part of modern Uttar Pradesh. These languages this language was spoken at that time, and Apabhramsha. These languages, Suraseni, Magdhi, and Apabhramsa, these languages are offshoot of Prakrit. So the first evolution, these are the evolutional, the evolution state. Sanskrit, then after Prakrit, and then after the Magdhi and Suraseni and Apabhramsha, these languages originated from the Prakrit. So that is the I can mention. I would like to mention that's the very prominent and esteemed linguistic, the Woolner. He stated that the Suraseni, the Middle Prakrit, is derived from Old Indo-Aryan dialect of Central India, on which the classical Sanskrit was mainly based. So, and Professor Marcel Cothiare took this research forward, and he hypothesized that ancestral Romani and Kannauji are the language of Kannauj, are the transitional forms between ancient Braj Bhasha. That's a language, Braj language, a language of modern member of Western Hindi languages, specifically spoken in Agra, Mathura, and Aligarh areas of Uttar Pradesh, state of India, where the Kannauj, these places are very close to Kannauj and Mathura. And the second language, Avadhi, that is also the member of Eastern Hindi language, which is primarily spoken in Ayodhya. This is also nearby Kannauj and Mathura. So duly recognized, and Professor Kothiare further said that these two languages are literary languages from which Hindustani and later Hindi emerged. That has been proved by even Indian linguists and other Western linguists. So even the Turner, in line with the Turner's hypothesis, Turner also elucidated the geographical position of Romani that originated in the middle segment of Ganga's plain, Ganga River, the Ganga River, which is in central India. And its ancient form was a close to Middle Indo-Aryan language, known as Suraseni Prakrit. So today's, that is, today the Suraseni, that language was spoken in the Surasena kingdom near Mathura. So as a result, Romani evolved first in northern India, in Uttar Pradesh, from Surasani medieval language. Stemmed that language originated from Prakrit, and then after from Suraseni Prakrit, Western Hindi, like Khadi Boli, Avdhi, that's language which I taught, which I spoke, the Braj Bhasha, which were born from Suraseni Prakrit language. Some linguists agree that the Avdhi is the amalgamation of the partly Suraseni Prakrit and the partly Maghi Prakrit. So that is the means that is the base, that is the landscape from which we can derive and we can strongly confirm that the Romani language indeed originated in northern India. So I'll further talk about the morphological and phonological and lexical similarities between Romani and the Indian languages. As we know that the Roma is spoken by Romani is spoken by Roma community and that is scattered across Europe, Balkans, North and South America. As Christian talked about the classification as the Vlachs and other Nordic languages, Vlachs and the Balkan dialects and the Central dialects. I don't want to delve into that, but we find that Roma clans have the vast majority of Roma people, they have preserved their mother tongue. But some clans, as Christian said, that is a stereotype. But it is fact that some clans have lost it, especially in the Iberian Peninsula. Obviously, there was a different situation because of Inquisition. It forced them to use the Castilian language and accept the Christian names, adopt the religion of the Catholic monarchs. These were the situations, Roma were forced. If they defied, if they showed the defiance, obviously they were punished with death by burning. So it was a different situation. Some group of Roma people, they lost because of the persecution and oppressions and tyranny. But majority of the Romani people, irrespective of their countries where they are residing in, they preserve the language, the Romani language. And it is no doubt that the Roma, despite all these differences, they understand. Even the some group that they use the different expressions, the different accents, the different grammatical systems. However, all of them understand. They understand what they are if they talk in Romani language, irrespective of their dialects. As we know that the Romani is a full-fledged language, there is no doubt about it. That language, it embodies its own wide range of lexicon, grammar, and phonetics. And it is a distinct and coherent language by any measure set out by the linguists. By any measure, that is the very coherent language and a systematic language. It may be defined as a heterogeneous cluster of various Romani dialects, however, scattered in different countries, living in a close-knit communities, and distant Romani groups speak the distinct and different forms of Romani language, use the different expressions, phrases, even their accents, words vary. Despite these differences, Romani is explicitly defined as an entity because all different dialects of Roma are, identical and akin and understood by most of the Roma people while interacting in their native tongues. If we go by if we do empirical analysis of the lexeme of all Romani dialects, whatever, that's Nordic, Vlachs, and Central, or whatever, the groups or subgroups of dialects spoken by Roma. If we do, carry out the empirical analysis, that shows that the bulk of pre-European, ones, the words, are Indian. The relationship of Romani to the language of Northern India is a very clear. That even people without a linguistic training normally, Tom, Dick, Harry, and the normal people, they don't have training or, the knowledge of language or linguistics. They can identify the similarities, because that's a very striking similarities between many common Romani words, many a number of common Romani words, and those words of Indian languages. If we go by the history, then obviously that is that the Egypt speech, that's a 1542, that we find that means that was written by the Andrew Bode in 1542. That is that's the very initial source that confirms, and that is one of the that's one of the very important studies that also confirms that Romani is a language. That's a that dispels the speculation about the lineage of language, Romani language. So even after that, that Valay Istavan, that research was repeatedly mentioned and mentioned in the linguistic studies. Traditionally, that man was attributed to the father of Indian origin of Roma. But even Ian Hancock refuted this hypothesis and this discourse. But it is true that the Valay Stephen, who jotted down the list of 1,000 words used by the students and students of Malabar Hill, that's at that time, means in southern part of India, the 3 students from southern part of India visited, the Leiden University, and in 1763, and Valay came across these people and interacted, and he found that whatever the words and their language is quite common to Romani language, because of Valay Stavan was the land. Valay belonged to the land owning family, so he employed some the Romani people in their field. So he was a bit aware that that language is quite identical to the language of Roma. So, but he was not a linguistic, So what he did, he passed on this information to the other person like Zetli, and then Zetli passed on this information to the other person, Augustine Abhotis. So these are very trite and very worn out, discourse. And but recent findings and the recent studies that concluded that it is not the Valay who is the father of the Indian origin of Roma community, but even Ian Hancock agreed that maybe someone might have did, but that was not a serious study. But it gave the allusion to the Indian origin of Romani language. We can take into account the significant strong references to the comparative analysis of grammar and a vocabulary of Romani with Indian languages, especially that study was, carried out by the Johann Rudiger. That's the professor at the professor of the Hale University. So he attested it is one of the finest studies on the Romani language. He stated and he confirmed that Indian roots of grammatical apparatus, such as the nominal case endings and personal pronouns, and these are quite common to the Indian language. Rudiger also points to the changes in the syntactic topology of Romani, which are the result of language contact, because there was a change in the syntactic topology because of the Roma migrated, because of the constant and perennial migration from one place to another place, and their interaction with the different the populations. This is the reason why he pointed that there are changes in the syntactic topology, the Romani language. But he concluded that the language of Roma and Indian are the same, and the Roma and the Roma together with Indians constitute the one people. So that was a very bold and a very the strong statement scientifically. So that study, I can say that laid the foundation on the similar comparative studies between Roma and Indian languages. There are other scholars, number of scholars like Jacob Bryant. He also confirmed and he revealed the similarities between the words, the Romani words and Indian words. The very old word, rupee, in Indian that's a rupee, and the Romani language that's a roop. You can find that how similar these two words, job, and the Bryant compared it with the Indian word fire, ag. Yug, that's so identical. So Jacob Bryant, he also compared some words of the Romani language with the Indian languages. And obviously another person, that's August Pott. He also compiled comparative grammar and etymological dictionary of Romani language. And he was able to draw on the several descriptive sources representing the diversity of European Romani dialects. Pott also referred to Pott was also, considered to be the father of modern Romani linguistics. So he established the historical and structural coherence. His study was about the historical and the structural coherence of the language between Indian and pre-European, between Indian and the Romani language. He also pointed out that the layers of the pre-European loan vocabulary when the Roma was on the migration. So he borrowed those words from the stations where they stayed, from the places where they stayed. So that is, he also talked about the loan words in the Romani language. In turn, he offered he offered insights into the migration history of Roma from India to Europe. That was also a very important study. And there are the person like I can give some John Sampson's, that's the modern linguistic in 1976. He also concluded that the very comprehensive analysis of the morphological structure of Indo-Aryan languages, and that Romani language, Romani chief, which bears the close affinity with the Indo-Aryan languages, especially the Middle on new Indo-Aryan languages. Modern linguistic like Ian Hancock, Acton, Mathras, as the Christian said, these they accept that the Romani language is offshoot of Indian languages. And Sampson also, but Sampson proposed the monogenesis theory. That is the monogenesis theory. He said that the Roma is of one language, but other scholar, very esteemed scholar, he challenged that hypothesis, Sir Ralph Turner. He said no. He challenged the monogenesis theory. He said no, that's the Roma cannot be of a one language. Roma didn't originate from one language, and plausibly the linguistic ancestors of Roma pertain to different groups of Indian dialects. And that now further, further explained and further substantiated. Upholding the argument of Turner, that's Hancock also, through the linguistic analysis, he asserted the Romani and Domri are apparently distinctive language. So, because Ian Hancock further added that there is a presence of third neuter gender in Domri that is closely identical to central Prakritic dialects, Prakritic dialects, than the dialects of northwestern India. So there are the other scholars who also said and confirmed that Roma acquired the Dardic touch in their languages when they migrated from the northern and central part of India, northern western part of India. So that is the, but he said that the Romani language related to the dialects of central regions like Punjabi, Rajasthani, Gujarati, and Western Hindi. So Turner also, now the Turner in 1927, he offered an unparalleled classification of the Romani language premised on the comparison between the Romani and the several Indo-Aryan languages. He pointed out the position of ancestral Romani, in the central group of modern Indian languages, especially Hindi built, So on the basis of series of confrontation between anachronisms and innovations, and that's very common. That's innovation is found in a Romani because of their constant migration from one place to another place because of their itinerant nature. So, now I would like to talk about the inflectional morphology of Romani and Sanskrit. If it is compared, for example, ending of their words and declensions of nouns or suffixes which are added to adjectives, adverbs, and participles, it has also been recently suggested that Roma has shared with the modern Indian languages because of the various characteristics of formation of words and grammatical outfits. For example, the way integrative and a personal pronouns like kon. In Hindi also we say the kon, the who, kai, where, kaha, we say that in Hindi, and kana, when, kaha, So these are the personal and interrogative pronouns, which confirm that the modern Indian languages and the Romani share the same characteristics. Then there is an article, the use of article O, as a Christian said about O and like A. That's the for masculine, that's the O, and for feminine OA. That's the singular O and plural E. And for feminine OA, so like O Bakre, the god, A Bakre, O Bakre, A Bakre. This is a very common. It shows that the quite similar characteristics between these two languages, as well as the formation of the abstract noun. If we compare by adding suffixes like ben, pen, the Romani suffixes and like ben and pen, for example, ketani pen, or like the community, and tasi pen, that's the truth, taco. So these features, along with others, ascertain the relation with the modern Indian languages and Middle Indo-Aryan languages. The phonological analysis, if we do that reveals the phonetic similarities between Romani and Indian languages. Like aspirated consonant phonemes, like for example, fa, that's a very quite, that is the unique, I can say that the sound of Indian languages, which is preserved and which is spoken by the Roma people as well, which is found in Romani language. Fa, th, j, k. These are the these sounds are unique. You can find only in Indian languages and Romani language, not in another in another family, in another the language family, or in other group of languages. You cannot find that. These are the characteristic of Indian languages, especially these sounds are. So that confirms that how the Indian languages are the putative ancestor of Romani language. If we talk about a phoneme like y, the Roma use very frequently, and in Indian language also we use y very frequently. These are the distinctive sounds and letters. The such are only found in Indian languages as well as Romani language. So that further confirms the similarities between the Romani and Indian nominal systems. If we, for example, disclension based on two forms, A form and B form. So similarities in a series of nominal and non-nominal endings. For example, the existence of two classes of adjectives according to the verbal system and the use of prepositions, which draw parallel, which bear the similarities between Romani and Indian languages. Now I would like to close because I will like to conclude that, but I would like to give some examples. That's a very interesting example. You can find how the Romani language is Indian language. Romani dialects have a system of vowels and consonants. Obviously, Romani have the system of vowels and consonants, which are clearly derived from Sanskrit. And the Romani language, the Romani chief, entails the grammatical system, which is analogous to that of the modern Indian language and the Middle Indo-Aryan languages. It has two numbers. If we like Romani has a two numbers, so are the Middle Indo-Aryan languages. Two genders, three moods, and three cases like the subject and oblique and vocative cases. These are the cases in Romani as well as the Middle Indo-Aryan languages, especially from the northern India, the language which I mentioned, and as well as the three persons and five tenses, which are found in the Romani language, the present, imperfect, and all these. If we clubbed into two aspectual conjugations, the present and the perfective, we find that how these these tenses are used in Romani language, which are obviously used in Indian language, especially the Middle Indo-Aryan languages from northern Indian groups. The pattern of sentences, the way the Romani people form the sentences, which is identical to Indian languages, how we form the sentences. Like, for example, I give you some examples, like, me piyel shudro pani. I drink cold water. Shudro means cold, right? That's a quite identical to, that's a word, that's a quite identical to Indian. May I, मैं ठंडो पानी पीता हूँ, piyel. So you can find that the similarities, because it is not the because this migration took place, the forced migration took place 1,000 years back. So there are some changes, but you can imagine that the 1,000 years back, especially the northern India, how they spoke, they formed such kind of sentences, as still the Roma form the sentences. Tu, you, tu pi shudro pani, right? You drink cold water. So quite identical. If you listen to the Indian speaker in Hindi or the Braj and of the, you can find that these are the same language. Tumen pien shudro pani. So if we say मैं जाव anu market, मैं market जाता हूँ in Hindi, I go to the market. So tu ja anu market, right? So these sentence, these the pattern of the formation of the sentence is quite identical. Amaro kako prastal, that's the amaro, our. We say hamaro, hamara, right? So our uncle runs, right? Such kind of, these are quite identical. And I can also give you some examples. The lexical comparison between Indian and, that's the Middle Indo-Aryan languages, like churi. They in Romani, the Roma people speak like churi. We say that churi, that like macho, like fish, we do say that. Rich, bare, large, we do say that large is shame. So a lot of things which are mui, mu in India, face, tooth, milk, doodh, we say that. You can find that in a lot of similarities. The words which are even the verb, like we say that pirel, to walk, pirna. We say in Hindi, in the Khadi Bhasha, that's what we say that pirna, the firel in Romani, to walk. So dikhel, we say dekhna, so to see. So these are the common these are the these are the lexical comparison between Romani as well as the Indian Middle Indo-Aryan languages, especially the northern group of languages. Now, I would like to conclude that it is true that linguistic evidences substantiate Indian origin of Roma people, and the findings, the research findings of the research findings that mark the evolutions and changes which took place, which has taken place in Romani language in terms of syntactical topology and the grammatical apparatus over the time. As I said, that because of their itinerant nature, because of their constant migration from one place to another place, from one country to another country. So so obviously the Roma are subject to lose and change much of their languages. much of their, some of their language vocabularies and some of their formation of the sentences. And but otherwise, Romani language must be fundamentally more similar to Indic languages than what appears now. So because of their migrations, the changes took place. So that I wanted to conclude because I took a lot of time. Sorry. So you can ask the questions in a question answer session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zamir. It was really, really interesting. And I mean, for me, like Roma, and I'm not a linguist, to hear all these similarities, it was really interesting. And thank you so much for the presentation, and I hope that we will have time also to discuss a little bit after.
All right.
So I will invite Dr. Aurore Tirard. She's a linguist and senior lecturer in linguistics and Romani language at INALCO University in Paris. And the title of her presentation is Examining the Similarities between Romani and Balkan languages. So, Aurore, please.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Tell me if it works. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, can you see the presentation now?
Yes.
Okay, I don't see myself, but okay. So thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be with you now, even from France, and to talk to this conference. My presentation will be the opposite of Zamir's presentation, so to speak, because I will be examining the similarities between Romani and Balkan languages. And I will be highlighting some of the European features of Romani. And to my mind, both our presentations show the linguistic and cultural worth of Romani as a language, because it is an Indic as well as a European language. So I must say I love this topic, so I'm very happy to talk about it now. Here the outline of my presentation. Can you see the screen now? Can you see what the outline of my presentation? Does it work? Okay, perfect.
Yes, yes.
So after a brief introduction, I will present you the so-called Balkan linguistic area, and then I will show you the similarities between Romani and Balkan languages. So as we know, and as Zamir has shown to you, Romani is an Indo-European language from the Indo-Aryan or Iranian branch, spoken by people who left India not before the 9th century, probably during the 10th century. Here a map. Probably during the 10th century because it shares some phonological features with northern central vernacular languages of India, like Hindi, as Zamir explained to us. And those people can be named Roma after this exodus and from then on. They crossed the whole Eurasian continent very quickly in less than 100 years, according to this historical hypothesis, which is Marcel Courtiat's hypothesis of Canauch, as Zamir also presented. Marcel Courtiat, who was my professor in Paris and who unfortunately passed away some months ago. So Roma arrived in Middle East and Anatolia at the end of the 10th century. I will not explain it further because Zamir has shown everything to us. So the similarities between Romani and Indian, Northern Indian languages. Now I will talk about Balkan area. So what is a linguistic area first? This term comes from the Russian word So I don't speak Russian, maybe Yazikovoist Soyuz. It means linguistic union. It has been coined by Nikolai Trubetskoy, Prince Trubetskoy, who was a linguist. So he wrote this in 1928. Then it was translated, so to say, in German, Balkan Sprachbund, which means language union, language league. And then in French, Ligue linguistique, Union linguistique. Now in English, linguists rather talk of linguistic area. And the main researcher that worked on this topic was Christian Zandveld, a Danish linguist who worked on Romanian and Balkan languages in general. Here, a definition by Sarah Thomason of the definition of the linguistic area. Linguistic area is a geographical region containing a group of 3 or more languages that share some structural features as a result of contact rather than a result of accident or inheritance from a common ancestor. So the most important ideas are highlighted here in yellow. So the languages in question are spoken in a common geographical region. There are several languages, so more than 2, 3 or more. They share grammatical features, structural grammatical features, so not only loan words, not only vocabulary. And let me add that these features may be much spread or not. They do not have the same impact. And convergence is driven by contact between languages, which means oops, what happened? Oh, yes. Convergence is driven by contact between languages. So it means that people are in contact. Languages and people are in contact. And let me add, so that these languages have various degrees of involvement. So I rather talk of a linguistic continuum for this area and league. So why is there a linguistic area? How is it created and when? It is a long-term process for languages and people who have significantly strong historical links, like in the Balkans. It is a history of language contact, of people who are in direct contact. Those people are usually bilingual or multilingual. They are able to talk a vehicular language as well as a vernacular language, and sometimes that is sometimes different from the family language. For instance, at the time of the Ottoman Empire, people could speak Greek for trade, and also Turkish with the authorities, but also Macedonian in the village and Romani in family. So they could be speaking 3 or 4 languages in the same day. Migration can also be an important factor, can play a role, migration within the same geographical area, as well as the substrate language that or the languages that were spoken in the area before the present languages. And we know that in Balkan, there were different ethnic groups that were much more mixed in the region during many centuries than they are now. It was before the emergence of nation states, for example, during the Ottoman and also Byzantine empires. So we do not know for sure what was or were the substrate languages, maybe Illyrian in the western part of the Balkan, for instance. Okay, this is for the linguistic area. What do I call Balkan? There are many different definitions: geographical one, geopolitical one, cultural, linguistic, etc. I will focus on linguistics, of course. So what languages are part of the Balkanic area? Albanian and its dialect, like Cham in Greece, is one of the core languages, as well as Romanian and its dialect, like Aromanian, Megleno-Romanian, other so-called Vlach dialects of Romanian in the Balkans, in the area. Bulgarian and Bulgarian outside Bulgaria, like Pomak, Macedonian. Those four, those four languages and dialects are the core languages of the Balkan area. Other languages are Greek, Serbian, Romani, Balkan Turkish, and then there are also peripheral languages like Hungarian and Slovene. But I don't know if you can see now. Can you see the map? Oh, okay, the map. I'm sorry, I've had problems with my screen. Can you see now the whole list of
Yes,
languages?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, we see.
So there are 4 core languages, then 4 other languages that do not share every feature, and then 2 peripheral languages like Hungarian and Slovene. Sometimes Turkish is also named within the list of the peripheral languages. But for Romani, we can say that there was an asymmetrical contact rather than convergence. We can talk rather of asymmetrical contact for Romani for historical and social reasons, because Romani does not show all the structural features of the Balkan Sprachgut, of the Balkan linguistic area. Why is it so? So here, let me quote a specialist of Romani and of Balkan languages, Victor Friedman. He says, he wrote that the characteristic of the Balkan linguistic league developed in environments of mutual multilingualism. Either speakers of a given language were influenced not only by the structures of the other languages they learned, but also by hearing their languages, their own languages, spoken as second languages, so by other people. In the case of Romani, however, like Giudesmo, the nature of social linguistic relations was such that multilingualism went only in one direction. Although Romani speakers learned other languages, their own language was not normally learned by others. So that can be an explanation why Romani is not part of the core languages of the Balkan area, but is kind of secondary language. But still, it is part of the Balkan League, as I will show. There are different layers of Balkanic features in Romani. First layer is from the 11th to the 14th century during the Byzantine Empire in the area of Anatolia, Greece, Greek, and also Middle East. From the 14th to 20th century, the Balkanic features were created during the Ottoman Empire and Austro-Hungarian in northern part of Balkan. And maybe there is a third layer during the last century. The first layer involves all Romani dialects. The second one involves only the Balkan Romani dialects. And the third layer, if there is one, but it's here with the question mark, involves only some Balkan Romani dialects. The first layer is due to contact with Greek and Slavic languages. So those from the period of the Byzantine Empire, the early Byzantine Empire. The second layer is caused by contact with Greek, Slavic, Albanian, and Romanian. So these dialects of the Balkan, strictly speaking, Balkanic Peninsula. And the third layer is here with the question mark, is caused by the intensive contact of sedentarized dialects. I quote here Friedman. And historically, we know that the language that had the greatest impact on Romani is Greek from a morphological, syntactical, and lexical point of view. So from the whole linguistic point of view, the European language that had the most important impact is Greek. So now let's talk about the concrete features in Romani. First, I will talk about the sounds, the phonology. Romani has a system of 5 cardinal vowels, so A, E, I, O, U, and schwa, so the that can be stressed, which is not the case in all languages in general. So bush, kır, bırş, instead of besh in some dialects, not all dialects, but some dialects of the Balkan. There can be a vowel reduction. For instance, instead of zoralo, zuralo, bok, buk. There, the initial syllable am or am is reduced to that that becomes a syllable itself. Mbrol, ngar. And L or M can be palatalized before E, like arli, arli. They can also disappear in several dialects. Instead of Romani, you have Romai. So here the N has first been palatalized and then has been lost. Okay, this is for phonology. Let's talk now about grammar, so morphology and syntax. In Romani, there is nominal inflection. It has been maintained. In Romani, there are 7 cases with different categories of cases. But anyway, there is declension, let's say, in Romani. And the vocative has been maintained. For instance, iromni, romnie. And the vocative has not been maintained in all the languages in Europe, for instance. And even if it's not frequent, it exists in Romani. Plural, dative, and plural genitive and dative have the same form. They kind of merged. Epuresque can be a dative or genitive, plural genitive. This is also the case in other languages in the Balkan. Other features are the analytical feature based on a form of the verb want, to want. Kasovav, this ka, so this feature is not present in all the dialects in the Balkan, but in the majority of the central and southern part of the Balkan. Kasovav, ka comes from kamav, which means to want or to love. And this can be also found in other languages like Romanian or Albanian, Greek. The inherited infinitive has been lost, so there is no infinitive in Romani. Kamaftechav, it means I want that I eat, not I want to eat. There is no infinitive anymore. There are different negations in indicative and imperative in most dialects of Romani. Nasovav or Chisovav, Nisovav, but Masov or at the imperative form. The conjunction or interrogative adverb of place have both a static and a motion sense. Kai jas, kai soves. There is the same form, you use the same form to say where, with or without motion. And it is identical to the relative pronoun. Iromni kai diklan. The synthetical adjectival comparative has been replaced by an analytical one, polacho, mailacho, instead of lacheder, that is still conserved, maintained in other dialects, but in the Balkan, you can hear only mai or polacho. The direct object can be doubled, dikhavlen ochave, that is the same. So len and ochaven is the same thing, but you say 2 times the same thing. Or mansiman uchave. To me, I have 2 children. There can be 2 definite articles determining a single nominal head, like Janes ichi Romani. There are 2 definite articles, 2 one for the noun, one for the adjective. This is also something you can find in other dialects like Greek, for instance, or Romanian, for instance. I finish with vocabulary. There are many words that are common in the Balkan area that come from Latin, for instance, mesa, masa for table, Turkish word like yorgan, boya, patlıcan that are shared by all dialects with a form or another. Greek words like kutia, and idiomatic expressions that are calqued, that are translated from one language to another. For instance, in Romani, Acilo Bimosco, he remained without face, without words, silent. He remained silent. Okay, this is all what we was maybe, I hope, not too fast for you to follow the whole list of features that show that Romani has also an European Balkanic aspect, and not only an Indic one. So for me, it shows the great wealth of this language that is syncretic. Here, my references about the Balkan linguistic area, mainly Banfik, Courtiade, Feuillet, Zandveld, Zolta, Thomason, and Trubetskoy, and about the similarities between Romani and Balkan languages, mainly Marcel Courtiade, Friedman, and Matres. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Now I can't find you anymore. Where? Here. Hey, can you? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have questions, I will try to answer it.
So I would be very happy if we will have some questions from you. Because we have here Zamir, Aurore, and Christy, who can answer. Okay, so I will have a question, and I wanted to ask Zamir what I mean. I don't know if you have an estimation, but I can. What it's the number now of the people in India who are speaking languages similar with Romani language?
Okay. Yeah. Actually, I talked about I also mentioned in my speech that Middle Indo-Aryan language, especially from Northern India. In that places, these languages, the similar languages are spoken and used by the people. I give you the figures. Right now, there are the 500 million people who speak Middle Indo-Aryan languages across the world, even in Europe, or the diasporic communities like in Caribbean, as well as like Mauritius, Fiji, and other there. So almost 500 million total Indo-European languages. 3 billion people, they speak Indo-European or Indo-European languages. Out of that, the 50 billion, means the 500 million people, they speak 500 million people. They speak that Indo-Aryan languages, and there are the approximately 225 languages which fall under the category of Indo-Aryan language. So in northern part, like the Uttar Pradesh, which is the the largest state of India as per the population, not as per the geography, but as per the population, that is the largest the state of India as per the population, according to population. So around that area, especially the northern India, the language like Hindi, Avdi, Braj Bhasha, these are Avdi and Braj. These are the means these two languages are of old Hindi, I can say that, and even the like other language like Bengali and Marathi, Punjabi, Rajasthani. These languages, all these languages are the new Indic languages, new Indo-Aryan languages. But as per the there are the linguistic that is he talked about that I can say that means there the scholar a Indian scholar who said that these languages are originated from the Suraseni language or Aprabhamsha language, right? So so that's a 5.5 billion people they speak such languages, these languages as per the number.
Thank you, Zamir.
And I also mentioned in my presentation that Magdhi and Suraseni, these two languages, these two dialects, which were spoken in the western part of modern Uttar Pradesh, present time the Uttar Pradesh, the northern largest state of India, where these languages were spoken, even as well as Upper Brahmsha. These languages originated from Prakrit, the Prakrit language. And the Prakrit at the time of Buddha, the Pali and Prakrit, these because the Sanskrit was a very sophisticated language. Sanskrit was a very the complex language. The in terms of sound, in terms of grammar and syntax. So that was a very complex and a very sophisticated language. So the people had a problem in interaction. So they drew the language, they developed the language, that's a Prakrit, from out of the Sanskrit for day-to-day interaction, so that they could easily interact, whether not only elite or the scholar, but also the normal masses, the normal rural masses, because the Prakrit is very simpler than Sanskrit in terms of grammar, in terms of sound, in terms of syntax. So so that language came into existence, and then from Prakrit, these languages, because the study confirmed the Roma was enslaved by Ghazni, and that's the modern research findings and the studies confirm that 1,000 years back. So if I compare, that's a new Indian languages. They came into existence, the 700 years back, and 1,000 years back already Roma migrated. Romani Exodus took place. So as some the scholars mentioned that that is the that language developed from 200 BC, 200 before Christ, to 1000 AD. So this group of languages are very much identical to Romani language.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Christy, also, I would like to put you a question, because I know a little bit of your work, and if you allow me, I would also like to ask you, because I know that a part of your work you developed in Mexico, and I would like to ask you how you interacted in Romani language with the Roma from Mexico, because I'm putting this question because you spoke about the fact that the Romani language, it's an unitary language.
Yes, it's true. Thank you for the question. I have this occasion to study a dialect of Romani language from Mexico, Veracruz, and it's true. It's a Vlach Romani dialect there, Căldăraș. No, is not a difference or a significant difference between my dialect and their dialect from Mexico, even that we speak about another continent. So the physical distance, the physical borders, there are not a border for Romani language. And yes, if my theory and the theory from literature, it's true. The immigration is part of second migration after abolition of slavery in Romania. So in Romanian countries. So the Roma from Mexico, who I study, they are there for more than approximately 1.5 years. Yeah, so we have a unitary language, and even that it's normal difference, you know, because we live in different country and we are in contact with different languages, but we still conserve our Romani language. I don't know if it was your question, this, or
Yes,
yes. It was only a topic you answered. I don't know.
I just wanted, you know, to put in this general context your work, because for me, for example, when I found out that there are Roma living in Mexico and speaking almost the same language, Romani language as us. For me, like ordinary people, it was really fascinating, you know. And also, I have a question for Aurore, and I would like to ask you if you could make like an estimation, approximation of how much was the Romani language influenced by the Balkan languages, because I mean, how much did the Balkan languages I don't know, affected? If I'm saying something wrong, please correct me. How much the Balkan languages, for example, influenced, I don't know, the structure of the Romani language, the morphology, the syntax. There are such cases.
Yes, Greek certainly heavily influenced the syntax, for instance, the word order in the sentence, like subject, object, verb, and the morphology, like the ending for creating a verb, like presentisarel. I don't know, or present. This isar, the is, or presentisel, the is comes from Greek, or many morphemes, many parts of the words come from Greek. Or for example, the very existence of a definite article comes from Greek. There was no definite article. You didn't say irom ni orom. Before the Roma came in the Greek-speaking area, so before they came in Middle East and Europe. So it is a Romani invention because of Greek, because of the contact with the Greek-speaking people. It is very old. It was like 9 centuries ago, like almost 1,000 years ago. The grammar, I would say, I don't know. Well, also the many, yeah. I cannot give a percentage. It's quite hard to tell. I'm trying to find out what percentage I could give. I don't know. Maybe. So influence of Greek is very heavy. Then the influence of other. I could not say what language affected Romani more than the other, if it was Albanian or Romani. We don't know, actually. Even for other languages, we don't know. I don't know, for instance, the loss of infinitive, the lack of infinitive. Why is it so? What language invented the other way of speaking and influenced the others? So we don't know what language precisely did that. I don't know if you want a number, a percentage, or
No,
I don't know. Maybe half of the. I would say the half of the grammar is the European invention or European influence. Yeah,
Thank you.
but I'm sorry, I cannot, because we have actually no testimony of Romani like it was spoken 800 years ago. We have no trace. The only Romani traces we have is from the 19th century, so it's quite recent. Yes. And it was in the Balkan mainly, but also in Germany. So, and it was written by the Gadje, so it was not written by the people themselves. So it's very difficult to answer your question. I'm sorry.
No, I said I'm not a linguist, and it's very possible, to put some questions very general and so on. So we have also a question from Mrs. Punita Singh, please.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Very interesting panel today. My question is for Aurore. Actually, it's similar to what you just asked, Adrian, but about Turkey and the Turkish influence. Because according to some theories like Adrian Marsh, the Roma really came together in places like Anatolia. And so I was sort of expecting to hear also about the Turkish influence. And so if you can maybe speak a little bit about that.
According to what I know, by the studies made by Adrian Marsh, Jan Hancock, Marcel Courtiade, Elisabeth Clanet, so people that were in different parts of the world, working at the same time, but not working together, they arrived at the same conclusions. So the theory of Kanauj, and then the deportation until Turkey, Anatolia, by the Seljuk people, so Turkish-speaking people. They were deported to work with an army, the Seljuk army or Seljukid army, but they were in a very multicultural army. They arrived in Caucasus, Palestine, Anatolia. They were in Jerusalem, etc. But then in this region, so that they stayed there like Eftavardesh, I don't know in English.
70.
Yes, 70. Thank you, 70 years. But then there only Greek and maybe Armenian was speaking. So Turkish was the language of the authority. It was not the common vernacular language. So Turkish has, and it was not Turkish like Turkish now. It was the Seljuk Turkish, and it was maybe more like Uzbek or I don't know, very Eastern Turkish version of Turkish language. So, and this language has very few influence. Then came the Ottoman army of Osman. Osman was the leader, and then he pushed away and then Roma came in Europe, in the Balkan, and then they spread to Central Northern Europe, and then with boats to Italy and Spain to flee, to escape from Muslim Ottoman army to Christian countries. And then in the Balkans, Turkish was spoken only by the religious authority, administrative authority, by the army, and Turkish has very, very few influence. The only influence is in vocabulary, like vegetables, fruits, I don't know, food, and also some very concrete objects. It's only vocabulary, only lexicon. So I don't know why, except that it was a very prestigious language, but not spoken, because actually the Turkish people did not colonize the Balkan. They ruled it like the English monarchy in whole world. They colonized, but not to. They ruled the countries, but they didn't put their own people to replace the other one. Actually, not in the United States, but I don't know, in India, for instance, the Indian people remained, but they were ruled by English speaking people. But they, yes. So it was a different kind of, it was an empire, a multicultural empire, and and Ottoman Turkish, it was also very special. It was not the Turkish of nowadays. It was much with Persian word, Arabic, Persian, and Turkish. It was a very difficult language, not at all spoken by normal people, like Sanskrit in old India. So Turkish has almost no influence on Romani, but Greek, yes, because it was a very spread. It was used for trade, for religion, for Orthodox religion. It was used for yes, religion, and it was very prestigious language for everyday language too. I don't know if it answers your question. Christian, you want to say something, to add something?
Yes, but I want only to ask something to Zamer and link a little bit your discussion. Yes, I am agree, and it's very interesting. You know, when the Roma came in Europe, it's true, but I imagine that they know this term from Drom original one, the Romani original one, because we know that Drom it's a Greek word. Okay, so they see this reality of Drom only in Europe. When what you think, Zamir, when the Roma leave the Indian region, they never see how you see drum in English? No street.
Road.
A road.
A road. Yeah.
Right. Actually, the first we have to understand the migration period. We have to first. It is very important to understand the migration period. So, almost all the Gaje or the Romani scholars, they agree. Most of the majority of the scholars and linguists and culturologists and ethnologists and genetic studies, all these confirm that the Roma was forcibly carted off from Kannauj, Mathura, northern part of India to Saharanpur and that northern belt of, northern belt of the northern part of India. So 1,000 years ago, there are the theories like Shahnama legend that 420, the Bahram Gur, the requested, all these. I'm not denying and refuting this theory. That might be, that and the historical documents confirm that this incident took place. But most of the scholars, they agreed the 1,000 years back. So how we can relate the Romani language to the new languages of India? The languages which came into existence 880, 1200 AD and 1300 AD and 1400 AD. There are the my discourse, my linguistically, my discourse is that the Romani language, the Drone, that is a different. There are the different kind of migrations. India has the very long history of the exodus of or dislocation or the migration of people to the different part of the world. A number of theories in the archaeological theories confirm, the anthropological studies confirm that the Alexander the Great came and carted off the 1,000 of people to the Alexandria, and after that migrations in like the 500 BC, because even India left Indians, number of Indians left India as a sages, saints, traders to the different part of the world. There are histories, the well documented that confirm as a sages and saints, they went to the different part of the world. They preached and they give the message of compassion, love, the peaceful coexistence and all. Or as a traders, they dealt in a different cotton and like rare woods and all these things. So my argument is that the Romani evolved first in northern India. Today is Uttar Pradesh. That's the northern belt of India. From Suraseni language, the medieval, that is a medieval language which stemmed from the Prakrit, and from Suraseni Prakrit, the Hindi language originated, Khari Boli, Avdhi, Braj Bhasha. These languages were born out of Suraseni Prakrit. So that, because according to the period, as Jan Hancock also as a linguistically confirmed, that's 1,000 years back. Even Professor Marcel Kothiare also confirmed and further elucidated the study of the migration of Roma from Kannauj and Mathura. So even I look at the period and the historical phenomena, I agree, and I a bit satisfied that the Romani evolved from the Suraseni medieval language and the Suraseni Prakrit, from where the Hindi and other languages of the Braj Bhasha were born out. And there is an impact. There is an impact of these languages as well on the Romani language. So there is no denial. Even the Avdhi, Braj Bhasha, Hindi, and all these languages have the very good impact, overwhelming impact on the Romani language. So that even Indian linguistic, like I was forgetting that time the name, the Babu Syam Sundar Das. He was one of the very prominent linguistics in India. He also outlined the origin of Hindi from the western branch of Suraseni Prakrit, and the Suraseni that was spoken in the 250 before Christ, before Christian era in northern India, the Bharatvarsha, and the language that was spoken and that originated from the Vedic Sanskrit. So he gave the outlines. So these, if we piece through these, these remnants, we find that we come to the conclusion and we infer that the Romani language originally evolved and developed in a northern part of India, from most probably and slightly from the Suraseni medieval language, Suraseni Prakrit, and from Suraseni, these are the languages which had laid the impact on the Romani language. That I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zamir. Thank you.
Can I add
Aurore,
something? Yeah. Do you hear me?
please, Aurore.
Yes. Because
After
actually,
that, I saw a question from Dr. Sonia Yasrotia, if I'm not.
Yeah.
Just to add, because actually there
And
is
after that,
a word for instead of drum, there is another word. There is pant, which is an old word that originates from that is Indian actually. I think pant is may also be used in Hindi to tell about a path.
Yeah, Pant is closely related to Indic languages, but Drom is a bit of a mystery. I mean, why they picked that up from Greek? Yeah.
But I mean, maybe they were actually, Pant is now used by some dialects only to talk about a path with sand, but maybe it was the original word for road, and now it is restricted to sandy roads. But actually there still is a word instead of drum, the drum, in the drum is in Romania, I think. Instead of yes, so yes, so just to add that there is another word, but it's little known. Thank you. Sorry for the.
thank you. Maybe Professor Gheorghe Sarau, do you want to add something?
Raja Sarau, kam este pensamento que vareso para influența Qatar.
Shundem so pucelo Adrian. Nice so te penaftomenge sarvio Christian pendeastomenge mehromosardem yeglil palal Romani chipt hai relația India sa le indicane cibiența tai si bezec sonanai prin giardo cada valil codolesche si andi rumunica nici codolesche cotesi but pucimata but probleme kai tume tron catre sote penaftomenge site jas mai dur ca să ave rodimatența te rodas po buti relația mașcarii romani cipt hai cibia pchenia sarsi codola andaro grupo nevo linguistica no grupo sarsi phili khandeci rajasthani bengali gujarati tai aver ca să ave cibia să ave si cibia pchenia sarsi romani cipt hai codola cibia soprende manglal va si cadia soprenela menge zamir so manglal sas andi duito faza andi mashkaruni faza indicane cibiengi canasas palic saurasheni tai ipuri dei codolengi si sanskrici tai manglal sas i sanskrici palal pali saurasheni prakrite tai palal avile cadala cibia andaro nevo indicano gruppo andaro indicano gruppo sarsi i romanici, marati, gujarati, phili, khandeshi, gujarati, rajasthani, thayaverci, bia. Si te jas mai dur, po dur, dureder, te rodas po but, po hor, te rodas ai te arakas, save darinia, save purane darinia si mashkari romanici thaye India ke Shibia. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet Professor Gheorghe Sarau. I will try to make a resume, not the entire translation, because it will be very, very hard. But the idea was that a lot of the things that were discussed and maybe addressed by me, that I'm not a linguist, and I just tried to stay next to you in this conference. Professor Gheorghe Sarau said that a lot of the things that were discussed are already written in one of his book. Christy mentioned the book. I think it's the Roma, the India. Dacă cam este penez Sarbuciolo Olil, profesor.
Romi, India și limba Romani.
The Roma, India, and the Romani language. But also I think that we discussed here other interesting problems in order to develop further research on the Romani language. And Professor Gheorghe Sarau is encouraging us to go further with the research, in special the linguists like it's Christy, Aurore, Zamir, and also I see that we have a question from Dr. Sonia Yasrotia. If I'm getting wrong the name, please excuse me.
No problem. It's fine. It was really an honor to be part of this event. I mean, in this online conference, this is really eye-opening. Since I have worked very little on languages. I've gone through all the scholars' presentation, wonderfully explained by Aurore. If I'm taking the name wrong, I'm sorry for that. I was thinking that whenever people travel from one place to another, whatever is easy for them, they pick up that word. So I might be, this is my own, opinion, or you might be, you might have some other opinions, but wherever people travel or they do the migration, they everything gets, kind of mixture, or you can say corrupt form of, you can find corrupt forms in languages, in different languages, because when we talk about India, it was not a small country at that time. When they traveled, it was greater India at that time. So whenever we talk about greater India, that it covers a lot of land. Now it is a little divided, but that covers a lot of land. So when they traveled from one place to another, there might be a possibility, whatever, wherever they stayed, they might have stayed for 50 years, 100 years, they get that local influence, and then they again migrated, and then they get the local influence. This is what I have felt when I listened all the scholars present here, but the essence or the roots might have been from India. So this is my observation. So thank you very much for informative presentations. Thank you so much.
Thank you. From what I heard today, for sure the roots are in India. um, and if anyone also has other question or wants to add something, if not, I think that we can prepare to close. So thank you. Maybe Zamir, if you want to add something now, because we are preparing to close, if there are not any more questions.
All right. Thank you very much. I especially extend my sincere thanks to Professor Sarao for his encouraging words and motivation. And I'm really, I am really touched by his kind presence in this conference and his motivational and inspirational presence in this conference. And we'll try, as I'm also not a linguist, whatever my a little bit study and, means and little bit findings which I came across and which I studied, that I presented. And obviously, as Sonia, she said that at that time, if we imagine or envision the 1,000 years back India, how India was culturally, linguistically, geographically. So that time there was a different India. There was an Indian subcontinent, So the people there was an internal migration from one place to another place. So when they migrate, they carry their own baggage. They carry their language and culture with them to that place. So I'm not confined that the Roma originated from only Kannauj and Mathura, but even that belt, that is the Saharanpur and Rajasthan and like a Haryana part, the Haryana and the Mathura and Kannauj. So these were the places where the Mahmud Ghazni invaded. So that the Ghazni invasion took place, the Ghazni invaded 17 times, and a different part of the even a southern western part of India as well. So that is the quite complex, but I tried myself to crystallize and crystallize that so that we can understand this language, Romani language. There is no doubt it has an Indian root, Indian origin, but still a lot of research are required to be carried out in order to further facilitate and crystallize that roots or the map of Romani language. So that with that words, I request that our the chairperson Rajesh Sachdeva sir, that please that's a conclude and we wind up this conference. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Zamir. I also want to thanks to Professor Gheorghe Sarau and to add also because I remembered something when I was, I mean, me like Roma, I was very interested in the idea to conserve the Romani dialects from Romania. And I put this question a few years ago to Professor Gheorghe Sarau, and I asked him what can we do in order to conserve the Romani dialects. And he recommended to make life stories and to, with Roma speaking every dialect from in Romania, and to transcribe these life stories phonetically. So we did this, and I will put here in chat the link for everyone who wants to see how it looks, Romani language, the dialects of Romani language from Romania. So thank you for everything. Thank you, Zamir. Thank you, Professor Gheorghe Sarău, and see you next year on the same day, celebrating Romani language, one of the most important elements of Indian heritage of the Roma. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to thank Zamir because he sent me link and I got so many information.